In this video, we'll build a full stack note-taking app using Next.js. Let's register an account. Account is created successfully. Now let's log in. If I enter the wrong credentials, an invalid credential message will appear. We don't have any nodes. Let's create one. We can log out. Now I'll log in with different account. User can pin their nodes. Pin nodes are visible across all pages. Let's navigate to page 2. Notice how the pin node still remains visible. We can edit node. Now let's delete the node. Let's start by creating Next.js project. Open your VS Code and in your terminal, type npx create next app at latest. As I have already opened my VS Code inside a Note app directory, I'll put period at the end. Go with the default option. Let's do some cleanup. Click on app directory and let's remove the default styles. Open page.js file. Remove this. Now, before diving into other concept, let's first understand about routing in Next.js. Next.js uses file-based routing. That means if you create a folder inside app directory and create a file named page.js inside it, then that route will be visible. Right now, we only have one page.js file at the root. So, user can only navigate to the root or the home route. To create other route, we have to create new folder inside app directory. Let's create one for login page. Create a folder and name it login, as this will be our name for the route. Inside login, create a file name page.js. The file name must be page, otherwise it won't work. This is our login page. Similarly, let's do it for the register page. Let's run our app. This is our home page. Let's navigate to login page. Register page. So this is the basic of routing in Next.js. Now let's get back to the VS Code. Inside app directory, there is a file name layout.js. Right now, only the children prop is being passed here. That means if we are in the home route, then this children prop is replaced by page.js file, which is present inside our app. And if we navigate to login page, this children is replaced by page.js file that is inside login. Now we want to display header and footer in all of our page. So let's do that. For that, wrap children prop in main. Let's create a header and footer component. For that, in app directory, create folder name components. You can name it whatever you want. Inside components, create a file name header. Let's also create footer. Inside header, create a file name header.jsx. Let's also create CSS file for it, header.module.css. Similarly, in footer, let's create simple component. Let's import it here. Let's place header above the main. And footer below the main. Let's add some CSS to our app. Open global.css file. Padding 0, margin 0, box sizing border box. Let's add some style in body tag. Display flex. X direction column. Gap 3 rem. And min will be of flex 1. Let's see our app. Refresh it. Let's set minimum height of body to be 100 VH. Right now, header is at the top, footer is at the bottom, and rest of the space is taken by the page.js file. If you navigate to the login route, we can see the login page. If we navigate to root page, we can see the home page. I don't want to waste your time typing HTML and CSS, so I'll add some HTML and CSS in our header and footer. I have added the necessary HTML and CSS that we need in our app. Let me walk you through the changes that I have done. Inside public directory, I have added two images. One is of header and another is logo of our app. In a layout.js file, I have imported the Poppins font and updated the metadata of our app. Inside footer component, I have imported style from the footer.module.css that we created earlier here. This is the basic HTML, and I have the styles in footer.module.css file, which I have used in this component. Similarly, in header, I have imported the logo and styles, and I want to display logo, so I have to import image from next image. Also, I have imported a link from next link. Now, when the user clicks on the image of the logo, they will be redirected to the home page. This is possible with the link tag. In login, I have added a simple form. It does nothing right now. In register, I have again added a simple form, but here I have used use state from React, so I have to add use client directive at the top of the file. I am doing this because I want to check username, email, and password before I send it to the backend. We'll go through it later. So right now, don't worry about it. Let's see our app. This is the homepage of our app. If I click on login, I'll be navigated to the login route. This is our login page, and this is the register page. Now let's connect our MongoDB database. For that, let's first install Mongoose. In the root, create a folder named utils. You can name it whatever you want. And inside this, create a file name, connectdb.js. Let's import Mongoose. Let me copy and paste some code. Here, we are initializing constant variable connection with empty object. Then we are exporting connect to DB function from this file, which is an async function. When the function is called for the first time, connection.isConnected is false. So we are creating new Mongoose connection. Then we are assigning connection.isConnected to the connection that we created just now. Now when the function is called again, connection.isConnected is true. So we'll be using the existing connection. If you are confused why we are using this approach, I suggest you to watch my previous videos where I have explained it in detail. Now let's create Mongo URI variable in our env file. Create .env file in root. Insert your MongoDB URI here. I'll insert mine later. Now let's create model for the user. For that, create a folder named models in the root directory. Then create a file named usermodel.js. Let's import Mongoose. Let's create user schema. Our user schema will have username, email, and password. Username will be of type string. It is required. So required is true. Must provide a username. And the username must be unique. Let me copy and paste this for email. Email is of type string. Required is true. Must provide an email. And the email must be unique. Password is of type string. And required is true. Now let's export the user schema. Let's first assign it in user and then export it. Let's export it. Now let's implement Next.js in our app. We'll be using the beta version. Open your terminal and install Next.js. Now in the root, create a file named auth.config.js. We'll export our auth config from here. Now let's use the pages option to specify the route for custom sign in, sign out and error page. If we don't specify pages, then the default Next.js pages will be shown. So let's specify that. For sign in, we'll use our login route. And if there is error in Next.js, we'll use our error route. Now let's protect our route with the help of authorize callback. It accepts auth parameter and request parameter. Now let's check whether the user is logged in or not. If the user is logged in, then is logged in is true, otherwise it is false. Now let's know the route path name that the user is trying to access. We can use next URL the path name to get the route that the user is trying to access. If the user is logged in, we'll execute the if block, otherwise we'll execute the else block. If the user is logged in and they are trying to access register or login route, we'll redirect them to the home page. Otherwise, they can navigate to all of our page. So we are returning true. Now, if the user is not logged in, then user can only navigate to register and login route. So if they are in register or login route, we'll return true. Otherwise, we'll return false. Now add providers with an empty array for now. Close this. Also, we have to set up auth secret in our env file. Open the env file. And declare the auth secret. This will be used to hash the cookies. Now in the root, create a file name middleware.js. Let's import the next auth. Also, let's import the auth config. We created auth config just earlier. This is the auth config. Here we are initializing next auth with auth config object and exporting the auth property. Now let's use matcher option to specify that the middleware should run in all of our route. For that, let's navigate to Next.js documentation. Copy it and paste it here. Now in root, create a file name auth.js. Import next auth and auth config. Now let's export auth sign in and sign out from here. Auth sign in, sign out, which will be provided by the next auth. Now let's spread our auth config. Now let's specify the providers. We'll be using credentials. Import credentials. Use credentials. From next auth plus providers plus credentials. Inside credential, we can use the authorize function to handle the authentication logic. Authorize. We'll get our credentials here. as a parameter. It is an async function. For now, let's console log credentials. Then return null. We'll add other logic later. Now let's start working on the login functionality. You might be wondering why not start with the register process instead. But all the setup that we have done till now is for the login process. Next.auth does not provide anything for the register process. It does provide sign-in callback, but that would be useful if we have used providers like GitHub, Google. Since we are using the credential provider, we should handle it ourselves. So we'll do that later. Open the login page. We'll be using use form state hook from React to handle our form. Import it. Copy and paste this. As we are using hook, we have to make this client component. So at the top, add use client directive. Let's call it dispatch. Here we'll get the error message. Initially, the error message is undefined. Now we have to create function to authenticate the user. So let's do that first. In app, create a folder name, server actions. You can name it whatever you want. Inside here, create a file name, user action .js. Add use server directive at the top. Now let's create authenticate function to authenticate the user. Declare try catch statement. Let's import it here. Import authenticate from user action. Now when the form is submitted, we'll call the authenticate function. Let's authenticate here. And in action, add dispatch function. Now when the form is submitted, the dispatch will dispatch our authenticate function. In authenticate function, we get the previous state and the form data. Now we can use the sign in method to log in the user. Import sign in from the auth. We have exported it here. It is async operation. So add await here. We'll be using credentials and pass the form data here. Now, if there is error while signing in the user, and the error is instance of auth error, we'll use switch case. If the error occurred due to mismatching of the credential, we'll return invalid credentials. Otherwise, we'll return something went wrong. If the error is not instance of auth error, we'll throw the error. Let's import auth error. Now, when the form is submitted, dispatches the authenticate function. Now, the authenticate function will sign in the user by passing the form data. It calls the authorize function and we'll get the credential here. For now, I have console logged it. So let's try. Let's enter some random email. Password is also random. We can log in. Let's see our terminal. We got our credential. Now let's handle the authentication logic. Let me close other file. Inside try catch block, let's connect with our database. Connect to DB. Let's import the user model. Let's check if the email provided by the user is in our database or not. Oh wait, user dot find one. We'll use find one method. Email is equal to credentials dot email. Here, this is the credential, and we are accessing the email key. The user does not exist, then let's return null. If the user exists, we have to compare the password provided by the user with the password that we have in our database. Is correct. Let's compare the password. We'll be hashing the password. So let's install bcrypt to hash and compare the password. npm install bcrypt. Import bcrypt. The spelling is wrong. Let's use bcrypt compare method to compare the password provided by the user and the password that we have in our database. Compare credentials.password with the user password. Now, if the password is not correct, we'll return null. Otherwise, we'll return the user. If there is an error, let's console log it. and return null. So this is our authentication logic. We'll get the user credentials and we'll check whether the user exists or not in our database. If the user does not exist with that email, we'll return null. Else we'll compare the password. If the password is correct, we'll return the user. If the password is incorrect, we'll return null. I already have some user in my database. We'll be using user with the username user and email user@gmail.com, whose password is also user, to verify whether or not we can log in into our app. Okay, now let's log in into our app. Email will be user@gmail.com and password is user. Click on login button. So you can see we are redirected to the home page. That means we have successfully logged in. This is the session token. If we remove this, we'll be logged out. Now let's also add some additional functionality in our login page. For now, let me remove this and let's go back to the login page. Right now, if I try to log in with the wrong credentials, I'm not getting any feedback message. So let's add that functionality. If the credential provided is wrong, we'll display error message here that states the provided credential is invalid. Let's go to the login page. Here we'll get error message in error message variable. Let's use it to display the error message. Let's display error message of the button. If there is error message, then display the error message. Let's try it out. Refresh the page. User@gmail.com. Let's provide the incorrect password. Click on login. So right now we are getting the invalid credentials. Now let's implement the register functionality in our app. For that, open the register page. Here, initially, the info variable is initialized with object with username, email, and password, which is a empty string. When the user inputs in the input field, we'll update the respective value. To do that, let's create this handle input function. Here, the value initially is set up with info.username, which is empty string. Similarly, for email and for password, whenever the value is changed, we are calling the handle input function, which we haven't declared yet. Let's do that. Function handle input. create previous value and update e dot target dot name with value e dot target dot value. Just console logged it. Let's try it out. Add some value. Let's see our info. We are getting the entered value. Now let's handle submit functionality. For that, let's create function called handle submit. Missing function handle submit. Now when the form is submitted, let's call the handle submit function. Now let's check if all the values are provided or not by the user. Info.username or info.email and info.password. If any of this is not provided, we'll provide feedback message to the user using feedback use state. Get feedback. And return the error message. Type will be error and message will be must provide all the credentials. Then we'll return from here. Now if all the fields are provided, we'll set the pending state to true. Set pending to true. Declare a try catch block. In server action, let's create a function to register the user. Let's call it register user. We'll get info parameter. In try, let's connect with our database first. Let's get username, email and password from info. First, let's input it in our register page. Input register user and in try Let's invoke the register user function. Await register user and pass the info that we have obtained from our user. Now let's first check whether the user with the email already exists or not in our database. For that, we'll use find one method. Await user.findOne. Let's use or operator as we have to verify whether the email or username exists in our database. Will not allow user with the same username and email. So let's use the or operator. Let's check for email and username. For now, let's console log exist. And return. Log the error. Let's get back to our app. Refresh the page. Let's provide the user with the username user, which we already have in our database. Email can be anything. Click on register. See our terminal. User is not defined. Import user. Refresh. Let's try it again. User. You can log in. Register. Let's see our terminal. So the user already exists with the username user. This is working as expected. Now, if the user with that username or email already exists, we'll return error message. Username or email already registered. Now, if the username or email is unique, we'll ask the password and store the user in our database. Let's do that. Wait. We'll use bcrypt to ask the password. Yes, password. Now let's create the user in our database. After creating, we can simply return it. So we don't need this. Let's try it out with different username that we don't have in our database. Let's call it user2. user2@gmail.com. Password will be user. Click on register. Let's see our database. Refresh. We are getting some error. I didn't import the bcrypt. Let's try it again. user2@gmail.com. user2 register. Let's check our terminal. We have successfully registered user with username user2. Now let's fix this. Now we are returning error object if we have some error in our database or the user provided credential is invalid, like the username or the email exist. So if there is error object in our response, we'll update our error message. Copy and paste. Type will be error and the message will be response.error. Else we can provide feedback to the user that the user is successfully registered. Type will be success. And message will be account successfully registered. Let's also add redirecting. Now let's redirect user to the login page after 1 second so that the user can see this feedback message for 1 second, or maybe make it 2 seconds. Let's do it for 2. After 2 seconds, we redirect the user to login page. Router.push. Let's input router first. Import use router from next navigation. Const router is equal to use router. router.push to login page, and let's set the pending state to false. Set pending false. If there is error, we'll display something went wrong. And also set the pending state to false. Let's try it out. Let's provide username that already exists and provide different email. Let's provide random password. Click and register. We are getting error message. Now let's register user. We have username user3, email user3, and password user3. Let's first refresh the page. User3 at gmail.com. User, this should be here. User3. Password will be user3. Click on register. So account successfully created, and we are redirected to the login page. Let's log in with that credential. User3 at gmail.com. Password will be user3. So we have successfully implemented login and register functionality in our app. Right now, when the user logs in into our app, we are displaying the home page. Now let's add a button here with the help of which user can add their notes. For that, open page.js. Let me copy and paste some code. Let's import this icon from React icons. Import link from next link. Here, I have added a button. When the user clicks on this button, they will be navigated to the add route. Let's create this add route. For that, inside app directory, create a folder named add. Inside add, create a file name page.js. This is our add page where user can submit their notes. Now let's try it out in our app. So this is the button from React icons. Now when I click on this, I'll be navigated to the add route. Now let's add a simple form here with the help of which user can submit their note title and description of the note. This is simple form. Here we are accepting title of the note and the description of the note. We have not implemented any logic here. We'll do that later. Let's first take it in our app. So this is the form with the help of which user can submit their title and the description of the node. Now let's create schema for the node. For that, inside model directory, create a file name node model.js. Let's define the schema of our node here. Import mongoose from mongoose const node schema mongoose.schema. Our node will have a title which is of type string. Required is true. Must provide a title. Copy and paste. This will be node. Type is string. Required true. Must provide node. Also, let's add the ID of the owner who submitted this node. Owner. Let's call it owner ID, as we will be storing ID of the user we have submitted the node. Mongoose.schema dot type types dot object ID. Required is true. Must have an owner. Now let's also add a pinned property. The type of pinned will be Boolean. By default, it is false. Now, when the user pins the node, we'll make this true. We have added this to implement the pin functionality. Let's also add the timestamps. Timestamps is true. Now let's export this node. Let's first assign it to node. Pass node schema here. Let's export it. Now inside server actions, create a file named node actions. Add use server directive at the top. Now let's export add node function, with the help of which we'll get the node provided by the user and add it to our database. Export async function, add node. It will accept form data as its parameter. Declare try catch block. Now let's first get the user credentials. we can use the auth method. We are doing this because in our node schema, we have to pass the owner ID for creating the node. Now let's get the title and node from the form data. Form's title is equal to form data dot get title. In our add out, we have assigned title to the name attribute, so we can access the value of title with the help of title. Similarly, for the node, we have assigned the name attribute to node, so we can get this node with the help of text node. Do the same for node. For now, let's console log it. User title node and return. If there is an error, let's console log it. Also let return error object. Could not add the node. Now let's import it in our add route. Import add node from server action / node action. This is the function that we just created here. Now when the form is submitted, we'll trigger this function. Add node. Let's try it out. Refresh the page. First node. This is first node. Click on add. Let's see our terminal. We got the user, title, and the node. Now let's add this node in our database. For that, let's connect with our database first. Await. Connect to DB. Now let's create this node in our database. Await node.create. Owner ID will be user.id. We can get the user ID from here. And pass the title and the node. Remove this console log. Import this node. Import node from node model. Save it. Now let's try it in our app. Refresh the page. First node. This is first node. Add node. So the post request is successful. Also, let's redirect user to the home page when we have successfully added the node. For that, use the redirect method. From next navigation. Okay, let's create another node and try it out. Refresh. Second node. This is second node. Click on add node. So we are redirected to the home page and the post request is successful. Let's see the nodes in our database. So this is the node that we have created just now. This is the first node. This is the second node. Okay, now let's get nodes from our database and display it in our home page. Open page.js file. Let's define a function at the top. It will be an async function. Let's call it get nodes. Declare try catch statement. Inside try block, let's first get the information of the user who is currently logged in. We can use the auth method to do that. Let's console log the user. Now let's get the nodes of the user. Import the node model. We'll use the find method. In our node schema, we have defined the owner ID for all the nodes. So we can get the nodes of the user who is currently logged in using the owner ID. Here we are getting the nodes whose owner ID is equal to the user ID. Console log the node, return the nodes. Inside catch, just console log the error. Now let's invoke this function. Let's see it in our app. This should be an async function. Refresh the page. Let's see our terminal. This is the user information that we got from the auth method. Here we are passing the user.id. This is the ID of the user. These are the nodes that we have in our database. Now let's display it in our home page. I am displaying the title and the node. This is the node. Let's see it in our app. We have two nodes in our database. So this is the basic of reading data from the database. However, this is not sufficient for our app. We have to handle the pagination. Also, we have to implement the pin functionality. So we have to rewrite this code. Let's first discuss how we are going to implement the pagination. We'll be using search parameters. We can get search parameter here. Let me just console log it for now. Refresh the page. Right now we are in our root URL. Now if I pass a search param here, let's call it page number. We can get it with the help of search params. We can access this page number by using search params dot page number. Right now the page number is 2, so we are getting 2 here. Similarly, if I provide page number 3, we'll be able to get it. So this is 3. Now we'll fix the size of our page. That means in a single page we'll only display 6 nodes, so the node size is 6. Now when the page number value is 1, we'll display first 6 node from our database. When the page number value is 2, we'll skip the first 6 node and display it here. Now let's implement it. Also, if we are in the root URL, by default it will be page number 1 const page number is equal to search params dot page number. Let's convert it to the integer first. Parse int search params dot page number. If page number is not in our search params, by default the page number is 1. Remove this console log. Pass this in our getNodes function. Let's get it here. Remove console log. We'll be displaying 6 nodes in a page. So let's first declare page size. Page size will be 6. We'll get the user details. Now let's count the number of nodes that we have in our database. This will be total nodes. And here we'll use the count document method. Right now we have 2 nodes in our database, so the total nodes is 2. Let's console log it. Let's console log it. Okay, now let's calculate the total page that we'll be having. Const total page is equal to, we'll use the math.shield total nodes divided by page size. Right now in our database we have 2 nodes, so 2 divided by 6 is 0 point something. Math.shield will convert 0 point something to 1. That means we have total 1 page in our app. Similarly, let's say we have 8 nodes in our database, so 8 divided by 6 is 1 point something. Math.shield will convert it to 2. That means we'll have 2 pages in our app. Page number 1 will display 6 nodes and page number 2 will display the remaining 2 nodes. Let's just console log the total page. Let's console log all console log in single page, total nodes, total page. Remove this. Refresh the page. I have to return nodes. Here I have only counted the nodes. For now, let's just return it as we did earlier. So right now we are in the root URL. That means by default, this will be page number 1. As this does not exist, so the page number is 1. So the total nodes is 2 and the total page is 1. Let's say if we have 20 nodes, comment this out, refresh the page. Then our total nodes is 20, so the total page is 4. As 20 divided by 6 is 3 point something, so the total page is 4. We'll display 6 nodes in first, second and third pages and 2 nodes in our fourth page. Let me uncomment this. Remove this console log. Now let's implement the pin functionality. For that, we have to first identify whether the pin node exists or not in our database. We'll allow user to only pin one document. So we can use find one method, const pin node is equal to await node dot find one, where owner ID is user.id and pinned is true. Right now, we don't have any pinned node, so this should return all false. Let's console log it. Refresh the page. We don't have any pinned node in our database, so this is returning us null. If there is no pinned node, then we can simply get 6 nodes from our database. Const nodes is equal to await node dot find those nodes where owner ID is equal to user ID. We are limiting the node to 6 nodes. So limit page size and skip page number -1 multiplied by page size. Here we are finding the node whose owner ID is equal to the user ID, and by limit we mean we want to limit the page size of node to 6. So only 6 node is fetched from the database. Then we are skipping the node using this logic. By default, our page number is 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 multiplied by 6 is 0. So we are not skipping any node from our database and displaying the 6 node. Similarly, if the page number is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1, and 1 multiplied by page size, which is 6, is 6. So we'll be skipping first 6 nodes and displaying rest 6 node that is available in our database. Similarly, if there is pin node, then we have to only fetch the 5 node from our database. So let's do that first. Let's return nodes and total page. If there is not any pin node, below we'll implement logic for handling in case there is pin node in our database. Let me copy and paste this. Now, if the pin node exists, then we have to get the 5 nodes that are not pinned. So we can use pinned is not equal to true. This will get the node where pinned is not equal to 2. Now we have to decrease the page size, as we will be displaying 1 pin node and 5 nodes that are not pinned. So page size -1. And in skip, we'll skip the 5 nodes. Remove this node. Let's return nodes and total page. Also, here we are only getting the 5 nodes that are not pinned. We haven't got the node that is pinned. So let's get it first. Const pin node. We can get the pin node here. So no need to do this. Let's combine the pin node and the nodes that are not pinned. Const combine nodes. Pin nodes. And spread the nodes. So these are the nodes that are not pinned, and this is the pinned one. Return combine nodes and total page from here. So this is the logic that we'll be using right now. We don't have any pin node, so this block will be triggered. We have to make some modification here. Now let's map through the node. Data.node.map. Let's display the total page number. Data.total page. It in our app. This is nodes. So the total page is 1, as we only have 2 nodes in our database. Let's pass the key prop node._id. Now I'll add some nodes in our database. Then we'll verify our implementation logic. Now we have 13 nodes in our database. Now let me walk you through the changes that I have done. I have not done any changes in this part. Here I have created nodes component where I have passed the nodes, and inside nodes component I have passed the individual nodes in node component. This is the node component. This is just HTML and CSS. Now let's see it in our app. So this is the output we are getting right now. This is our first node. As we have 13 node, the last node is 13th node. Now let's verify the implementation logic. Let's pass page number here. Right now first node is displayed here. 1 to 6 node is being displayed in this page, so we should get node from 7 to 12. So this is the 7th node and this is the 12th node. As we have 13 nodes in our database, the total page size is 3. If I provide page number 3, we get our 13 node. So this is working as expected. Now let's implement this delete functionality. Also, before that, let's reverse the order of our node. That means the node which we have created just now will be shown at the top. For that, we have to use sort from mongoose. Here, let's first sort it. Dot sort created at -1. Copy and paste it here. Let's see it in our app. Refresh the page. So this is our first page. We are getting the 7th node. Let's create 14th node. Add node. We are seeing our 14th node at the top. Now let's implement the delete functionality. In node component, we are displaying the icons with node title and the node description. So this is the delete button. Now let's implement delete functionality. For that, open node action.js file. Let's create a function to delete the node. It will be an async function. Let's call it delete node. It will accept node ID as its parameter. Let's connect with our database first. Connect to DB. Now let's find the node by its ID. Await node. Import it. We have already imported it. Dot find by ID. Now, if the node does not exist, we'll return error message with error not found. Node not found. Now, if there is node, we'll delete the node. Await. Node dot find by ID and delete. Now, if there is some error, we'll return the error object. Would not delete the node. Let's get back to our node component. This is the delete button. Let's import delete node here. Let's wrap this delete icon inside a form. And in action, let's pass the delete node. Also, we have to wrap this icon in button. Also, we have to pass the node ID while calling this function. We can use input for that. Type will be hidden. Name will be ID. And the value will be node dot underscore ID. This is one approach to do it. I'll show you another approach which is more cleaner way. But let's first try it with this. For this, we'll be getting your form data. Let's get our ID. Form data dot get ID. For now, let's console log it. And return. without doing anything. Let's try it out first. Refresh the page. So let me click on this icon. Open the terminal. We are getting some warning. We'll handle it later. So this is the ID that we have passed. Next.js is complaining that we can only pass plain object in server component. So we have to convert it to string. For that, we can use toString method. Let's try it out again. Refresh the page. Click on delete. To the terminal. We are not getting that warning. So now let's delete the node. Remove this return. Console log. Now let's try it out in our app. Click on delete icon. Let's see our terminal. Refresh the page. So we have successfully deleted the 14th node. Also, let's try to delete the 13th node. Click on delete. Refresh the page. So we successfully deleted it also. We don't want to refresh every time. So in delete node, let's revalidate our path. Revalidate path. Let's try it out. Let's delete the 12th node. First, let's refresh our page. Click on delete. So this is working as expected. Now let me show you another way to do it. Let me copy and paste it. Comment this out. We'll directly pass the ID here. We don't have to do this. Rest is same. In note, let's remove this input field. We'll use bind to bind the note ID in our request. For that, at the top, let's bind it. Const. Let's call it delete with ID. Delete note from our server action dot bind. Pass null and the note ID here. We have to convert it to string. Also, toString is optional. Here, instead of delete note, we have to pass delete with ID. Let's try it out. Let's delete this node. Click on delete. So it is working. You can use any of the approaches. Now let's implement update functionality. When the user clicks on this icon, we'll show the title and the node description to the user, where user can update their node. For that, when the user clicks on this icon, we'll navigate user to /update / the ID of node. So to do that, we have to make update route and get the ID. For that, inside app directory, create a folder name update. This is our URL name. Inside this, create a folder. And specify the folder in this format. You can name it whatever you want, but it should be inside a square bracket. Inside this folder, create a file name page.js. Page.js file is inside this ID directory, not inside update directory. Let's create simple component update page. Let's try it out. Let's pass 1. So this is our update page. Now, when the user clicks on the node edit icon, we'll pass node ID here. Now let's get that ID first. For that, we can use params. For now, let's console log it. Let's pass 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. Open terminal. So we got 1, 1, 2, 3. Now, when the user clicks on this icon, we have to navigate user to the update page. So let's open node component. This is the edit icon. Let's use link to navigate user to the update route. Import link. When the user clicks on this link, we'll navigate user to /update /ID of the node, node.id, node._id, as it is Mongoose document. Let's try it out. Click on edit. So this is the ID of the node. Now, first we have to fetch this node from our database. So let's create a function at the top. It will be an async function. Let's call it fetch node. We'll pass the ID from here. Once data is equal to await fetch node, pass params.id. Remove this console log. This should be an async function as we are using await. bycast block. Let's connect with our database first. Connect to DB. Const note is equal to await note import note model dot find by ID. Pass the ID. If there is no note with the ID in our database, then we'll return object with the error message note not found. Otherwise, we'll return the note. And if there is any other error, we'll return the error object with error message could not get the note. Now let's display the note in our page. Data.title. For now, let's see it in our app. Refresh the page. Click on this. So this is the 10th note. On this. So it is working. Now I'll add a form here. With the help of which user can update their note. Okay, now let's add form in our update draft. Let me copy and paste some code. We can use this. Remove this. This will be update note. Update. Now we need interactivity when we want to update the note. So let's create a component where we'll only handle the form logic. We have to make it a client component. So let me cut this and create a file name update form.jsx. Paste it here. We are doing this because we have to add some states to handle the user input. However, we cannot place use client directive at the top in this page. So we have to create a component. This will be our server component. We will be fetching the note and we'll pass this note in our update form component, and this will be the client component. Let's import it here. Update form. Just pass our note. This will be data, as well as returning the note and getting it in data. Let's check it out in our app. So this is the note. Let's populate this field. Let's pass the title and note individually. Data.title and note will be data.note. Will be title, note, value will be title, note. So this is our note title and description. Now let's import use state. Once data, get data, use state. It will be an object of title, which is equal to the title. Note will be note. Also, let's use this instead of this. This will be data.title. This will be data.note. Now let's create a function to handle the input from user. Let's call it handle input. It will accept key and value as its parameter. Get data. Read the previous input. Key will be the value. Now let's call it here when the input is updated. On change, key will be note and the value will be key dot target dot value. Let's do the same here. Also, we can use key dot target dot name here. As in name attribute, we have assigned title. Similarly here, key dot target dot name. This console log. Let's try it out. We should add use client directive at the top. Refresh the page. Let's see our console. We got the user input. Now let's send this to our server. For that, let's create a function first. Inside server action, open node actions. Let's create a function here. Put async function. Let's call it update node. From data. Let's get the node and the title. Console log. Also, we have to pass the ID so that we can fetch the node from the database and update it. For that, we can pass the ID from here. Data dot underscore ID dot toString. As we can only pass plain JavaScript object from server component to the client component. Let's get this ID here. Create hidden input field here. Type will be hidden. Value will be the ID. Now let's get the ID in our update node function. Let's console log it and return for now. Refresh the page. Node. Click on update, but we have not set up our function. So first import it. It import it inside update form. Import update node. Action will be update node. Run this. Let's see our terminal. We are getting ID null. I forgot to provide name attribute. Let's try it out again. Let's console log the ID here first. We are getting the ID. Maybe I forgot to refresh the page. Let's try it out again. Note, update it, click on update. So we got the ID, title and note. Now let's update it in our database. Remove this console log. Let's connect with our database. Connect to DB. Let's find the note. Await note.find by ID. Pass the ID. If note does not exist, let's return error message. Note not found. Now if the note exists, let's update it. Also we have two note variable here. So to fix that, let's call it to update note. Now let's assign the value to update note. To update dot note title will be the title. If the title is not provided, it will be the previous title. To update note dot title. Similarly, for the note, await to update note dot save. Remove this return. In case there is any error, let's return the error message. Could not update the note. And now let's redirect user to the home page so the note is updated. To redirect the user, let's try it out. Refresh the page. Click here and updated. Said updated. Click on update. So we have successfully updated our note. We have already implemented the logic to get the total number of pages while fetching the note. So the implementation of pagination is quite straightforward. We just have to spread and map over the length of the total page to create pagination button and navigate user to that specific page when the user clicks on the button. Open page.js file. Let's create pagination component and import it here. Inside component, create a folder named pagination. Inside pagination, create a file name pagination.jsx. Create the CSS file. import at the home page. Let's comment this out. Now let's pass the current page and the total page in our pagination component. We can get the current page from here, and we are returning the total page while fetching the node. Current page is page number. We can get the total page from data.totalPage. We are returning the nodes and the total page from our getNode function. Let's destructure the total page and current page. If total page is equal to 1, we'll return it. We won't display one pagination button. Return. If total page is greater than 1, we'll create the pagination button and return it. Let's import left arrow icon from React icon. Size will be 50. Now let's map through the total page and create the pagination button. Spread array of length total page. Let's map through this. Index and return button. Array index starts from 0, so index plus 1. We won't be using this element, so let's add underscore before element. I'll rotate this left arrow by 180 degree and make it right arrow. So for now, copy and paste it here. Let's see it in our app. So we have 3 total pages. We are getting 1, 2, 3, and this is our left arrow. And I'll rotate this to 180 degree and make it right arrow. Let me copy and paste some code. I'll add some CSS to our pagination component. Here I have a left arrow icon inside link tag. Similarly for the right arrow button. And this is to create the pagination button. Let's import link. Let's see it in our app. This is the left arrow icon. This is the right arrow icon. And these are the button. Now, when the user clicks on this left icon, we'll navigate the user to the previous page. We can do that by using current page -1. Also, we have to check whether the current page user is on right now, is first page or not. If current page is equal to 1, then we'll return the empty string. Otherwise, we'll redirect user to the page number current page -1. Let me explain it to you. Suppose the current page is 2. 2 is equal to 1 is false. So when the user clicks on this left arrow, will be navigated to current page -1. 2 minus 1 is 1. Similarly, let's do for the right arrow icon. Copy this, paste it here. Here we have to check for the total page. If current page is equal to total page, then we'll return the empty string. Otherwise, we'll return page number is equal to current page plus 1. Let me explain it to you once again. Suppose total number of pages is 4 and currently we are at page number 2. Now 2 is equal to 1 is false. So when the user clicks on this left arrow icon, they are redirected to the page number current page -1. That will be 1. Similarly, if the current page is 2 and total page is 4, 2 is equal to 4 is false. So the user is navigated to current page +1. 2 plus 1 is 3, page number 3. Now, if current page is 1, then user will stay in same page as we are returning empty string. Similarly, our total page is 4, and if the user is currently at page 4, then we are returning empty string. So the user again stays in the same page. Let's try it out. By default, this is page number 1. I'll click here. Now we are navigated to page number 2 and the notes are displayed which are of page 2. Let me click it again. Similarly, this is the page 3. Let me click this left icon. If I click here, this page number should be equal to 2. This is working as expected. Now, if we are at page number 1, then let's disable this left arrow icon. Similarly, if the current page is equal to total page, we'll disable this right arrow. Disabled will be true. If current page is equal to 1, then we will return true, otherwise false. Copy it, paste it here. If current page is equal to the total page, we'll disable this icon, otherwise we won't disable it. Save it. Let's check it in our app. Refresh the page. I'm at page number 2. Let me click here. I'm at page number 1. So this button should be disabled. There is some issue. This should be just disabled. Remove this. Remove this. In CSS, I have added this style when the icon is disabled. Let's try it out again. So the disable functionality is working as expected. Let's try it for this right icon. 2, 3. So this should be disabled. So it is working. Now let's implement this button functionality. Let's wrap this button inside the link tag. Inside href, page number is equal to index plus 1. Now when the user clicks on this button, they will be navigated to the page number, which is displayed by this button. Let's try it out. Refresh the page. I'll click on button 1. So I am navigated to page number 1. Click on 3. I'm navigated to page number 3. Now let's add style to indicate which page we are currently on. For that, I just have to conditionally add a class to the button. If the button index plus 1 matches the current page, we'll highlight that button. Otherwise, it will be the normal button. For that, let's add a class here. If current page is equal to index plus 1, return styles.circle. Otherwise, we'll return the empty string. Let me show you the CSS that I have written for circle. This is the class. Let's see it in our app. Refresh the page. Right now, we are at page number 3. So this 3 is being highlighted. I'll click on this 2, page 2, and page 2 is highlighted. We are at page number 1. So this icon is disabled. So it is working as expected, but a user can enter page number that exceeds the total page. In our example, our total page is 3. But what if user enters 4 manually here? So at page number 4, we don't have any note. So this is blank. We don't want this. So we have to add a condition in our page.js. Here, if the user enters the page number that exceeds the total page, we'll redirect user to the not found page. For that, inside app directory, create a file name not found.js. This file name must be not found.js, otherwise it won't work. This not found page is provided to us by Next.js. Here I have displayed error image, and with the help of this button, user can go back to the home page. When the user clicks on this button, I have redirected user to the home page, and it must be client component. So add use client directive at the top. Now open page.js. Here, if page number is greater than data.totalPage, we'll call the not found function. We can get this not found function from next navigation. When this function is triggered, this not found page is shown. Also, if the page number is greater than the total page, let's return null here from getNodes. This is the total page. If page number is greater than total page, return null. Now, if the page number is greater than total page, we'll get null in our data. So we can just check it. Remove this. If no data, then we'll show this not found page. Let's try it out in our app. So page number is 4, total page is 3. So we are seeing this page. If I click here, I'll be navigated to the home page. Let's try it out again. Page 3, page number 30. It does not exist. Click enter. So we are getting the error page. Go home. Also, when the user joins for the first time, they don't have node in their database. So we have to check for that condition also. So if the total nodes is equal to 1, then we'll display you don't have any node message for the user. If total nodes is equal to 0, let's return empty. Now, if let's write this below this. If data is equal to empty, then return. We can copy and paste this. We'll show the plus icon. There won't be any node. So remove this and add, and let's add a s1 tag. Remove pagination. you don't have any nodes. We are doing this because if we don't do this, we'll get an error. Let me show you how. Now, if we comment this and see the flow of our get nodes, here the total node will be 0 and total page will also be 0. Page number is 1. And 1 is greater than 0. So we'll return null. And if null is returned from our get nodes, we'll trigger this not found. So the not found page will be displayed instead of you don't have any node. So we have to do this. Uncomment it. Now let's see it in our app. Now I'll create a new user and try it out. Log out. Create new user. John at gmail.com. Password will be John. Let's log in. Log in. So right now we can see you don't have any nodes. Move it here. Refresh the page. So let me show you what it would be if I don't return empty. Comment it. Refresh the page. So we don't have any nodes in the total page is 0. And in page number we are passing 1. 1 is greater than 0. We are returning null. And the data does not exist. So not null is true and not found will get triggered. So we have to check for this. Now it is working as expected. Now let's implement the logic to pin the node. When the user clicks on this star icon, we'll pin this node and this node will be visible in all of our routes. Open page.js file. We are displaying 6 nodes. While fetching the node, we are checking whether or not there exists pin node. If the pin node exists, we are returning the pin node and other 5 nodes. And if the pin node does not exist, we are returning the 6 nodes. Open nodes component. Inside nodes component, we have returned node component. Open it. Here is our star icon. If the node is pinned, I have added pin active style. Otherwise, empty string. That means if the node is pinned, then pin active CSS is returned. Otherwise, empty string is returned. When the node is pinned, the field is set to yellow to show this is the pin node. Let's wrap this star icon inside form, and when the user clicks on this star icon, we'll trigger a server action. Let's wrap the star icon inside button. Open node action. Let me also show you the node model. Inside node model, we have the owner ID. We have kept the ID of the owner who owns the node. And we have pin property. By default, all nodes are false. We just have to toggle this false to true to pin the node. Let's create a function to pin node. Export it. Let's call it pin node. It will receive form data as its parameter. Declare try catch block. Let's import it inside node component. Pin node. Let's pass it here. Now, when the star icon is clicked, we'll trigger this pin node. Also, we have to pass the ID of the node that the user wants to pin. So, add input element, set type to hidden, name will be ID, value will be node._id .toString, and this will be read only. We have to convert node ID to string because we cannot pass complex object in server component. So we have to convert it to plain JavaScript object. Now we can get this ID in our server component. Const ID will be form data.get ID. Let's console log it. Let's try it out. Refresh the page. I'll click here. Open the console. We got the ID. Now let's connect with our database. Connect to DB. Let's find the node that the user wants to pin. Const node to pin. Await node.find by ID. Pass the ID here. Let's console log it. Node to pin. Click here. So this is the node. We have to set this pin to true. Node to pin dot pinned is equal to not node to pin dot pinned. Save it. In case there is an error, we'll return error object would not pin the node. Revalidate path. Pass slash here as we are in the root route. Refresh the page. Let's pin this 19th node. Click here. So this node is pinned. Now we are toggling the pin property, but say this node is pinned and the user want to pin this node. Then when I click on this icon, we have to unpin this node. That means we have to set this pin to false and set this pin to true. Also, If the user clicks on this same node that is already pinned, we just have to toggle this. Right now it is true, we have to make this false. So we have to implement that logic too. We have to also check whether the previously pinned node exists or not and implement it accordingly. So let's check whether the previously pinned node exists or not. Const previously pinned node is equal to, first let's get the user credential. We can use the auth method. User is equal to await auth. Here await node dot find one, where owner id is equal to user dot id and pinned is equal to true. Now if previously pinned node exists, then previously pinned node dot underscore id is not equal to node to pin dot underscore id, then previously pinned dot underscore id will set it to false and save this. Await previously pinned node dot save and rest is same. Right now we have previously pinned node. This is the previously pinned node. Say user is trying to pin this node. We are getting this node and storing it in previously pinned node, and this is the node to pin. If this id and this id does not matches, then we'll set this pin to false and toggle this pin. If this is the previously pinned node and the user is trying to click on this pin icon, then we just have to toggle it. So if the previously pinned node exists and the previously pinned node is not equal to the node that the user is trying to pin, we are setting the previously pinned node to false and toggling the property of pinned so that we can pin the node that the user wants to pin. Let's try it out. Click here. This is not working. This is not underscore id. Here it should be pinned. Save it. Refresh the page. Click here. So we have pinned this node. Let's pin this 16 node. Click here. So this is pinned. Let's go to page 3. This is our pin node. Let's unpin it. Click here. It is unpinned. We are not providing any feedback message for the action that is being currently performed. So to provide the feedback message, we'll be using React Auth.js. First, we'll implement React Auth.js for delete functionality. When the user clicks on this delete icon, we'll display deleting node message, and accordingly, we'll display the success and error message. First, let's install React Auth.js. npm install React Auth.js. Open layout.js file. Import toaster from React Auth.js. Toaster. Position will be top center. Let's change the default font size to 1.6 rem. Choose option. Style. font size will be 1.6 rem. Close this file, open node component. Here is our delete icon. Now we need interactivity, so we have to make this client component. We can add use client directive at the top here, but we will not be doing that because we can make other server component and just this component client component. That way we will be utilizing Next.js more efficiently. So to do that, we'll create separate component. Let's call it delete button .jsx. We don't need this form action. Remove this. Remove this from here. Let's return it here. Import CSS. This will be client component, so add use client directive at the top. Import it here. Let's add on-click event. Handle delete. Also, we have to pass the node ID from node component. So ID will be node underscore ID dot to string. ID. String function. Handle delete. Let's display the deleting node message. Const deleting node message. Toast import it. Dot loading. Deleting node. Now from our node action, let's import delete node. Import delete node. This is our delete node function. We'll pass the ID. Await. Delete node. Pass the ID. In delete node function, we are returning the error object in case there is an error. So we'll check whether our response has error or not. If our response has error, we'll display the error message. Otherwise, we'll display the success message. Let's dismiss this loading message because here the node should be deleted. Toast.dismiss delete node message. Let's call it deleting node message. If response has error, then we'll display the error message. Response.error. Else toast.success. Node deleted successfully. Let's try it out. We have to import this delete icon. Paste it here. Click on delete. So the node is deleted successfully. Let me show you the delete message also. For that, let's pass random ID here. refresh the page, click on delete. So we are getting the could not delete the note. So it is working as expected. Remove this, uncomment. Similarly, we'll implement this for our pin icon. Create pin button component. This is our star icon. Remove this, remove this, but paste it here. Import styles. This will be client component. Import here. ID will be note underscore ID dot to string. We have to also pass the pin prompt. Pin will be note dot pinned. Cut it, paste it here. Let's copy and paste this function. We have passed ID and pinned. On click, handle pin. Handle pin. This will be only pinned. Will be pinning. Import pin note from server action. This will be pin note. We'll pass the ID. Here, previously we have used form data, so we have to make some changes here. Will be ID. We don't need this. Rest is same. Dismiss pinning note message. Here, if the note is pinned, then we will display note unpinned successfully. Otherwise, we'll display note pinned successfully. Let's try it out. Refresh the page. Click here. We got error. Toast. Import toast. Let's try it out. Click here. Note pinned. Click here again. Note unpinned successfully.